Everybody, welcome live to the Jim Master Show, live entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody, all around the world. It's a pleasure to have you here. And boy, do we have a very special episode of JMS for all of you to entertain you, but also to celebrate and remember an icon in the fields of television and film and stage and music, the one and only Peter Marshall. We've been talking about this for the last couple of days here on the Jim Master Show live series. And we have put together an extraordinary roster panel of incredible guests, celebrity guests and friends who are joining us here from all over the USA. And many of these incredible guests, some of them you have seen before here on the Jim Masters Show. They're friends of our series. They've been here multiple times. They wanted to be a part of this episode as we celebrate Peter Marshall, which I think is so kind of all of them to do. Several of them, if not all of them, moved heaven and earth to join us here because we put this together rather quickly upon the news of the passing of Peter Marshall. It's really extraordinary, and they've all come together to celebrate this one very, very special man who truly left his mark, the one and only Peter Marshall. Of course, we know as the host of Hollywood Squares, but he was a great actor and a fabulous singer. He was on Broadway in so many shows, but I think most notably known for the Hollywood Squares. He came into our homes with love and light and just really celebrated so much laughter with all the squares. And we honor him on this episode of the Jim Masters Show Live. There he is singing, performing. He was a brilliant entertainer, and he will be sorely and sadly missed. So we're going to bring some of our guests on now, and then some of the other guests will join us. The guests that have to take off a little bit early because they actually moved dinner arrangements and so much more to be here. We're going to bring them on first, and then we've got some other guests joining us as well. First, look who is joining us here. John Davidson is with us. Welcome back, John, my friend. We will see you in September in New Hampshire at Club Sandwich. Look forward to that.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for putting this all together for Peter. He's an incredible man and an inspiration to so many people.
The pleasure is all mine. The always effervescent Ruta Lee is with us. Ruta, thank you, my friend, for being here with us on the show. You are always a delight to have here on our program.
I am so happy to visit with you, and I sort of feel like you've given all of us who are here today a blessing and given us a chance to say kind of our so long to one of our best friends.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're here. And another icon in the industry, the one and only Marc Summers. Mark, my friend, thank you for moving things around to join us tonight as well.
Thanks for asking.
The pleasure is all mine. You're doing well since we chatted last. Congratulations on the show in New York, too. It was a hit.
Yeah, 16 weeks doing theater in New York was maybe the most difficult thing I ever did. I'm still trying to rest and calm down. But yeah, we'll probably be perhaps touring it. The request is in. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And Noopy, good to have you here as well, returning to the Jim Masters Show, my friend. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
The pleasure is all mine. And the tag team of Glenn and John are here. Hey, guys, welcome. And Glenn, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having us. And like our friend John said there, we're just so honored to be a part of this tribute for a man that represented show business, but he also represented a life so well lived. You know, he had so much love in his heart for his friends, for his family, for his menagerie of rescue pets. And it's such an honor to celebrate Peter Marshall tonight.
You second that emotion, John?
He talks because he says things so eloquently, but absolutely, yeah. Peter is amazing. The time we spent with him is just precious, and move heaven and earth to celebrate the man anywhere.
Absolutely right. Claudia Cagan is here, a supervising producer with Entertainment Tonight. Claudia, it's a real pleasure to meet you, and I welcome you to our show.
It is actually my honor and my pleasure. And I want to say, Noopy,
Yes.
I want to say that I found this picture because we took class pictures of every episode when we did Hollywood Squares between 2002 and 2004. And there's your mom with a couple of other people you may have heard of next to Betty White, Jamie Farr, and J.P. Morgan and Nipsey Russell. And just, it was an extraordinary time every single week.
It's a great picture.
And I like to think of Hollywood Squares as a living history of legends and laughs.
That's so fantastic. Well, it's so nice to have you here, and thanks for showing that picture. And somebody else, too, that is a big fan of our show, that's been with us several times, Randy West is with us. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim. A joy to be with you, and so many friends. And my goodness, when I talk about Peter, I first met him 40 years ago and was impressed from our very first meeting. Our paths crossed several times over the years. There was nobody better. That's it. Kindest, warmest, most talented, most versatile performer ever. So it's an honor to be here to be able to help share the love.
Absolutely. Bob Boden is joining us. Bob, welcome to the show as well. Nice to have you here, my friend.
Happy to be here.
I really appreciate you joining us. You know, everybody, when we asked them if they were going to want to be a part of this, every single one of you jumped immediately, which I think is really, really something special. And I appreciate that. And it just shows the respect and, you know, honoring that you have and love for Peter Marshall, of course, as well. But I appreciate you hopping on the show. And we're going to bring, we'll take Georgiana out so we can fit in Geoffrey, and then we'll have Georgiana back. Geoffrey Mark is here. Geoffrey, welcome to the show.
It is a pleasure to be with you. And I agree with Ruta and John, just to have an outlet for my emotions, never mind to share them with everybody else.
Yeah.
Peter and I were good friends for over 30 years. I saw him back in June, and we actually said goodbye. And hopefully I have some stories that will bring a smile to everybody's face.
Absolutely. And now we'll bring on Ernie. Ernie, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. I met Peter exactly 50 years ago when he hosted the first ever Daytime Emmys with Barbara Walters. He was a new youngcomer replacing Gary Moore. And it was the first time there was ever a Daytime Emmys. First time I was nominated. I lost, Peter won, and I booked him on the Mike Douglas show the next day.
What a story. And we're going to share some more stories with you in just a second as well. And then we have the incomparable Chris Korman, and we're going to bring Chris on, and he's a great friend of our show, of course, son of the iconic Harvey Korman. Chris Korman, my buddy Chris, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
How are you?
I'm fine. I just want to say I hope Lori and the Peter Marshall family watches this and just glows from the love that Peter's going to get tonight from all of us. I think this will be a great cathartic thing for Lori and the family, because I think they need all the love they can get right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautifully said. Ruta, I know you have to head to that dinner arrangement.
Yes,
share some memories that you have of wonderful Peter.
Clearly, I am the oldest one in this group because I've known Peter for between 50 and 60 years.
No, you're the one with the best lighting.
At least 50 years, probably 60 years that we're friends. I know him from the days when it was Noonan and Marshall, or Marshall and Noonan. So that's way back when, through Broadway, through everything else. And I've known him through all of his wives, and boy, has he got the beaut of all that he wound up with that wonderful Lori. Oh, what a gorgeous, fabulous creature. But you know, those of us who ever appeared or were regulars on Hollywood Squares, all tried to kind of break up Peter every once in a while. He was not one to break up. He was always kind of very much in order and running the show. And I did break him up one time. In fact, the whole place kind of went up in a roar. I was asked a question by Peter about the breast size of one Dolly Parton. And I said, oh, for heaven's sake, Peter, don't ask me. I have a tattoo on my chest that says, in case of rape, this side up. Well, you can imagine how the place went up. And the students were all running around saying, can she say that? Can she say that on the air? Can we get away with it? And Peter went up like a house on fire. I just am so enchanted to have had him as a good friend. He was also a good friend of Alex Trebek's, with whom I did High Rollers. And of course, Alex was my best buddy. And so this is such a beautiful golden opportunity. There, speaking of the devil, there he is, to be able to share a few minutes, loving minutes, about a loyal, fabulous, wonderful friend that was a friend to everybody that ever turned the television set on. And all I can do is say, thank you, God, for the privilege of having him in my life. And thank you for letting me share a few stage moments with him, and a few television moments with him, and above all, a lifetime with him.
What was one quality that you think stood out, was the reason why so many people, viewers at home and the public at large, just really couldn't get enough of Peter?
I think that Peter exuded something that was very true about him, and that is he never took himself seriously. He was able to giggle about a lot of things. He took his work seriously. He did a very good job, but boy, did he love to laugh and make fun of life in general. And I think that was what stood out about him, that and his loyalty. When he made a friend for life.
How would you remember him?
That's how I remember him, saying the best thing about him is his loyalty, his comradeship, and his marvelous, marvelous sense of humor about himself, his life, his wife, his many wives, and as you said, who said something about his animals? Yes, he's a great
Animal lover.
of animals.
Yes.
And anybody that loves animals the way he does, and the way animals love him, can't be bad.
Absolutely. Class act too. A real class act, right? You know, he had that
Totally.
that wonderful polish and warm way about him.
But he had it on stage live too.
Yes,
you know?
right.
I remember seeing him in, I believe it was Skyscraper on Broadway. And he looked so good, and this tall, lean, gorgeous creature, and really had a great style about himself. But the greatest thing about his style was that he was able to laugh about it too.
Absolutely right. I know you have to take off. You've got that dinner arrangement. While we're talking about Peter and remembering Peter, we lost another television icon today as well. And just wanted to see if you had a quick comment. We lost Phil Donahue today. And anything you wanted to say in reference to Phil, Ruta?
I did his show at some point or other when I was back east. I can't remember what movie I was plugging or what I was doing. But what a gentleman. What a lovely gentleman. Of course, he was a very young, gorgeous, handsome gentleman at the time, but he's always remained kind of young and gorgeous. And of course, his beautiful wife is just an icon. And she brought so much to television. And I think that she has brought so much to his life as well. So it's my opportunity to say thank you to the wives of these beautiful men, these marvelous creatures. Thank you for putting a light and a glow and a sparkle in their lives. You made them so much nicer, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
We love you, Ruta Lee. Thank you so much for taking a few moments and sharing them with all of us here. Really always a privilege and a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'm joining Donell Dadigan, who is, you mentioned, the Hollywood Museum.
Yes.
She's the owner and proud person behind the Hollywood Museum. And I know that she's a friend to just about everybody that's in a box here tonight in the square. And what a joy to be with all you beautiful people. Thank you. Thank you for the privilege. And Jim, thanks for putting this together. And I want to say thank you to all of the viewers that gave a damn about Peter Marshall, and that gives a damn about all of us who loved Peter.
Absolutely, Ruta. Thank you very much for being with us and sharing your comments and joining us in the 11th hour. You're always a trooper and you're a real pro, and we appreciate it. We'll see you again soon, okay?
We sure will. And so long, everybody, for the meantime. God bless.
All right.
Enjoy dinner.
Bye, Ruta.
Yes, enjoy dinner, Ruta. And again,
Thank
thanks
you.
for being with us. Okay. There we go. And Marc Summers, I know
Yep.
that you've got some things cooking as well, my friend. You have a memory or two of the incomparable Peter Marshall you'd like to share? And again, thank you so much for coming on the show so late. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I have so many stories. When I was a young person in Los Angeles, trying to get noticed, there was the NATPE convention, National Association Television Programming Executives, and I was trying to get noticed and was flying up to San Francisco, and I was at Burbank Airport with Peter, who I hardly knew, and Bill Armstrong. And a storm set in, and for some reason we took off, and it was the bumpiest, most frightening flight I'd ever been on in my entire life. And Peter spent an hour and a half holding my hand, talking me down, trying to get my mind on other things. And it was one of those things that the guy, like I say, hardly knew me at the time, but went out of his way to make sure I felt comfortable on the whole flight. And it's sort of when we first bonded. I was lucky enough to have him come to my house not too long ago. And the stories, I mean, we all know him as, he took the Dick Van Dyke role, Bye Bye Birdie in London, but he did so much theater. And he told me a story once. He knew everybody because he was around for so long. And he was playing, I believe it was the Copa, when he was off on his own. His partner had passed away. And he kept having this one woman, an older woman, come to a show every night. And she kept sending him little notes, and the last note was, here's my apartment, I'd love for you to come up and spend some time with me. And it was Clara Bow. Well, for the love of God, if any of you even here know who that is, but Clara Bow was sitting on Peter Marshall at the Copa when he was singing back in the day. And those were the kind of stories that the man had, the people who got him his first jobs in television. And the thing about it was, besides being a great host, he made it seem effortless. He cared about other humans. And the best trait of a host is to make everybody else the star. It's why Barker was so good, and it's why Peter was so good. And he was the king of that. And when you look back at the old tapes and see him with, be it Cliff Arquette or Wally or any of these guys, he always made them the stars. And he could have gone other ways, and you know, when you look at John Davidson, John was the same way, and we watch him do Squares. I think we all learned so much, and sadly, you know, they started the new Squares shooting this week, and Nate Burleson, who was the new host, contacted me and wanted to meet Peter, and I called Pete, said, is it okay if I put you guys together? And they never got connected, sadly, and I know Nate feels bad about that, but he was always there to help somebody and reach out and do something. And he was the most natural, loving guy. And if you look online, Lori, his wife, has put some really beautiful things up online. And I don't know, it's the end of an era when you think that, you know, Donahue went away today. I grew up in Indianapolis, and there were the Abco TV stations, and I used to watch Donahue when he was on in Dayton, Ohio. A rare breed. And all these guys that are disappearing now were rare breeds. They were part of old show business that doesn't really exist anymore. And I was just happy to get to know these guys and be a tiny, tiny part of their lives.
Was, you know, you obviously are a celebrated and very talented and extraordinary host as well, Mark. Was Peter somebody that you always respected and admired as far as being a host, a television host, his affability, his warmth?
No question about it. When I was starting my career as a host, there were only a couple of people that I looked up to say, I would like to be like that, have the success, but also have the class. And that's the word that always comes to mind when I think of Peter. And when I used to watch him on Squares, I always thought, well, if I could just, you know, emulate 1/10 of that, maybe I'll be successful. And get to know him, to call him up for advice. The one thing, like all people who are in front of the camera, I would get depressed often, and often say, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And Pete would say, don't stop. All my friends who stop die. And, you know, right up until the end, he was singing. He was playing symphony orchestras, and he would always say to me, don't quit. I'm telling you, just don't do it. And I would listen to that. So I would get down. I would call Pete. He'd say, Mark, things are fine. Don't quit. And he kept me going, you know, and I applaud him and appreciate that so much.
You know, there's just something about the style and the way and the comfort that these hosts, these personalities that we've always admired, you know, working in the industry, the road that they paved for everybody else that does this kind of work, and the way that they had this relationship with the audience, not only the studio audience, but also the viewing public, and they felt like they were part of the family. And do you think that's something that is passe? Is that going away? Was that for that time, or is that still something that's around? I know that a lot of people still appreciate that. Everybody's watching old reruns of shows and they're craving the warmth and the congeniality. Is that something, I know Peter, of course, exuded that. Is that something that you think, Mark, is fizzling out, or how do you feel about that?
I do, because when I came to LA and said I wanted to host game shows, that was a job you could actually take. The only way to become a host these days is to already be famous. You have to be a YouTube star, or you have to have some sort of bizarre personality that got you, in front of the American public. So yeah, I think it's kind of disappeared. I look at the screen here, and the most versatile human being in the world there is John Davidson. He's done everything. He sings, he acts. I remember him on the NBC show when people would give a year of their anniversary, and he was able to sing a song. I don't know if he remembers, but when he hosted the Iris Awards at NATPE and Radio City, I wrote at that time, and I got to work with John a lot. But the fact that he's done as many things as he has, he's the last of this group, I think, who exudes warmth and kindness and professionalism. And I think the world has changed so dramatically that's kind of a lost thing. I have to run. Thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this thing. I will look for this online. I want to say goodbye to Lori as well. I'll be in touch with her soon. But just some of the things she's posted online, and you knew the love and the relationship these folks had was just so special. It was amazing. So you guys have a nice show. Thanks so much for being kind enough to ask me to be a part of that.
Bye, buddy.
Mark, you're the absolute best, and really appreciate spending time with us. And you be well, and come see us again, okay?
Thanks, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
All
buddy.
right. You take care, Mark. Marc Summers here on the show. And all right, so let's see. We can bring somebody else in now as well. Let's bring back Bob. All right. So let's see. John Davidson. Everybody referring to you in such a glorious way, because you are one of the nicest guys, and I know we've said that multiple times.
I'm not nice.
He says that all the time. He said that to me last time. I'm not half those things you said, Jim.
No,
stop it. John,
I just want to say that what he said about Peter is so true, that he made the stars shine. They used to say that about Merv Griffin, and he did the same thing. But Peter just loved setting up his guests to score, to be funny. And he never felt that thing that I get sometimes. Oh, I better say something clever so that I'll be a clever host. He didn't seem to care about that. His whole thing was making Paul Lynde look wonderful, and all the Wally Cox and Charlie Weaver, and I was a guest with Peter so much, and then I got a chance to host the show. And when I got a chance to host it, I was doing a Peter Marshall impression, but I don't do impressions well, so nobody knew it. But he was so supportive of me. I'd call him and say, "What should I do? Am I doing this right?" And he said, "Yeah, do it your way. It's fine." But I never felt that I had the grace and the charm that he just was. He exuded love for what he does, and man, I don't think that's lost. I think there are young performers today that are playing with that love for an audience that Liberace had. Oh my goodness. I used to try to imitate Liberace and his love for the audience, and to put everything, look at you. Just a great, great man. And I was so happy that he accepted me. I replaced him on the show. Of course, he won all these Emmys, and he'd done it for 16 years. But he was so ready to cheer me on and support me. I compare that to Mike Douglas when I took over from Mike Douglas for Westinghouse at the talk show, and he was not real pleased that I took over for him. Ernie Di Massa can testify to that. I wish that I'd had Ernie Di Massa as my talk show producer, but that was Peter. He just loved to hand it over to other people, and even though he was a major star on Broadway, as we've said, and then with his live performances as well. So anyway, great man. He's not gone. To me, he's right here, and I think, how can I be more like Peter Marshall? Yep.
Beautifully said. Really, we appreciate that, my friend. There was a time also when you hosted, which you did on multiple occasions, the Tonight Show, and for Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
On one of those occasions, Peter Marshall was one of the guests.
Yep.
You recall that night?
I do, and I gotta say this. When you're a guest host with Carson, you try to get people on that would be fun. I tried to get Kenny Rogers on, and they said, "Oh, he's not a talker." I said, "Are you kidding me?" Kenny Rogers used to tell incredible stories, and it was my choice to try to get Peter Marshall on because he's a raconteur. He's just a charming guy, and I knew that we would have fun together. The other one was Jacques Cousteau. They didn't want to put on Jacques Cousteau, and I said, he's not a great talker, but man, he's an icon, and what he's done for the sea and the oceans and all that happened several times. But I was glad I was able to get him on the Tonight Show. He should have been on with Johnny. I don't think he ever did it with Johnny. Do you think? Does anybody know?
Yes, there was a conflict, let us say, between a manager and Johnny, and he didn't want any the manager's clients on.
I see. Well, I was glad we had that chance together.
John, you said, outside of Paul Lynde, the funniest thing I ever heard on the Hollywood Squares. I'm wondering if you remember in Japan when a young bride gets married.
You see, you know that on Hollywood Squares they give you a joke. You don't know the question, you don't know the setup. All you give you is a joke, and I couldn't make that work. I mean, that's how Paul Lynde did it. Paul Lynde, was not like a Tim Conway or a Jonathan Winters. He said things funny in a funny way. I can't even do him, but it was all written for him. I just tried to make it out like I was an expert on everything, and try to fool people. But the question was, and this I didn't even think I was going to say this, but they said, what on the wedding night, Japanese women shave a certain part of their body. Well, so I fuddled around a bit, and then I said, on the whole, I think that's gross. It's really gross. So it went into the blooper tape. It's in the bloopers because they didn't use it on the air. But I didn't know how to be funny with a joke that they gave me. So I was just trying to. Again, it's survival. I was just trying to save my ass on the show. So I tried to do remember Professor Irwin Corey?
Oh, sure.
He was an expert on absolutely nothing. and he just went on a bit, and I loved him so much. And so I was trying to do that. And again, I don't do impressions well, so nobody knew what I was doing. But I learned so much by being on Squares and meeting these greats. And then when I got a chance to host it, it was just a dream come true, and especially with Peter's support.
Glenn and John, good to have you with us as well. And I know you've had a wonderful relationship with the incomparable Peter Marshall, and you've actually been working with him recently on projects, which is something special. Tell us about your fond memories of this iconic figure and this wonderful man.
Well, I was so blessed and, truly lucky to have Peter Marshall in my life since I was 15 years old. And, I co-hosted Fantasy, which Ernie Di Massa produced. So we go back just as far. And, I got to co-host with Peter Marshall and Leslie Uggams. And I call Peter my mentor and my idol because how blessed was I to learn how to host from one of the greats in show business. Look at us. That's it. That was backstage at a fantasy taping in the makeup room. We were doing a wedding episode, and that's why we were all decked out. But Peter really gave me a lot of his knowledge. He took me under his wing. He was so kind and wonderful. I always said to him, I said, Peter, you gave me the greatest gift as the perfect example of how to be famous and kind. And I've told him that numerous times. There we are with Lori. Oh my gosh, Lori, who we love so much. We've been talking about the great Lori Marshall, his beautiful wife. There we are together. There we are. Lori and I recently when we were visiting them at the house. But yeah, so to be able to not only consider him a friend, there's John with Peter, but not only to consider him a friend, but as a mentor, truly as a mentor. And I've used and utilized those tools that he has given me throughout my entire life. And this was a recent visit with Susan Simons. That's our other friend, Susan Simons, who many of on the panel know. And we have visited Peter. So let me catch you up. We're doing a documentary on the life of Peter Marshall. We have 4.5 hours in the can. There we go. I was one of, if not the last person to ever actually interview Peter and hear all of his stories. Look how great he looks. That was literally 8 months ago. And look how handsome. And so the documentary is called Peter Marshall, Too Hip to Be Square. And we're in the process of it. We have Jay Leno on it. We have Barbara Eden already. Leslie Uggams came in. Ruta is in it. That's our whole production team you're seeing right there. Wink Martindale, of course, the great Wink Martindale, another dear friend of all of ours. Lainey Kazan. We talk about Tommy Noonan, of course. And, there's going to be many more. We're still in the process of putting this together. Peter was so honored and happy to do this. And let me just share with you a quick story of how this came about. So many of you here on the panel, of course, know, some of your viewers may not know, that Peter overcame COVID at 94 years old. And this is a man that overcame cancer. He overcame COVID. Like, he is a survivor. Peter Marshall loved life and always wanted to live his life. So after things slowed down after COVID, Johnny and I would go visit him quite often and just, kind of, can I say bullshit? I guess I just did.
I think you just did.
Yeah. And we would just kind of like.
I only got stung once by YouTube.
we always wanted to just listen to him and let him talk. So Lori one time said, Peter's a little tired today. Maybe you should come over, probably about a half hour or so. We said, okay, fine. 3.5 hours later, the man was still telling stories about Sophie Tucker and his beautiful sister, Joanne Drew, who was just an incredible actress. He talked about how Al Jolson was in love with Joanne when they were living in New York. And Al Jolson used to come to his apartment and hit on Joanne, and his mother did not like Al Jolson, and she used to kick him out. So there's all these, incredible Hollywood stories. And so we were walking out of his house that day, and we looked at each other, and we said, really, we have to get all this documented. We need to put him in front of the camera and tell all these stories, because he's always told the same, Hollywood Square stories, of course, but there are some jewels here. So that's what we did. And we're just so honored to have had the privilege, I call it privilege, for him to really share about his childhood, the death of his father. We got into so many things, the death of his son, because after Peter survived COVID, his 68-year-old son, David, passed away nearly a year later from COVID. So, he and Lori and the family endured that, traumatic blow to that family. So there's just so much there. There's so much that people don't know of the life of Peter Marshall, the depth. And, John, I hear you talking about this, and Ruta was talking, the depth of this man comes from our life experiences. When we have, trauma in our life, we either can fold up or we can grow and move on. And Peter Marshall was the perfect inspiration to show how we could take what we have, take the pain in our life, turn it around, and make it something special.
John, you want to add anything to what Glenn had said?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you read my credits, I think I deserve more money. But that's a whole other thing.
You're right. Renegotiate with people.
Yeah, I think I should be making more money. Peter was amazing. I have to say, I was very honored to do the Hollywood Museum Squares. John was amazing, and all of our hosts. And Peter was supposed to do it. And we had Peter Marshall and John Davidson and Tom Bergeron. Those were going to be our 3 episodes, and those were the hosts of Hollywood Squares. And the Tuesday before the Thursday rehearsal, Peter gets COVID. Don't know if he can do it. We rushed the John Davidson show. John, you might remember we rushed yours, a week ahead. How's Peter doing? And then after Tom Bergeron's show, we said let's do a couple more. We're doing pretty good. Maybe Peter on the end can eventually do it. I made Peter laugh because I said, Peter, I know getting COVID was really rough for you, but I got a husband out of it because Glenn was not supposed to be on the show. He was not booked. And those last 2 episodes, we needed more stars, and Glenn came on, and that's how we met. And that's how all this happened. So,
and that's thanks to Bob Loudon and Steve Grant, who recommended me for the show.
Yep.
So Circle was your square.
That's right. So I made Peter laugh on that. I said, it was rough for you. I said, but I got Glenn out of it. And just the time we spent with him at the house. And again, the stories are just legendary and sharp as a tack, like not even searching. And, maybe he would tell one story and he'd forget one name and he'd get so mad at himself. And I'm like, Peter, oh my God, 97. And, you forgot one name. It's not a big deal. He would recall everything from years ago, the theater he was at, who he starred with, the year it was. Blown away. We should also be so lucky to get that far and be that sharp and with it. So I just love him. These guys, I grew up watching them. They're my idols, and this time I spent with him was just precious for me.
Thank you for sharing that. Claudia, welcome to the show. I know it's very, very busy working with Entertainment Tonight and all the spectacular things and shows, productions you've been a part of and responsible for. So thanks, on what's probably another busy news night for being here with us and taking time. What are some memories that you have of Peter Marshall?
Well, first of all, as far as the busy day, when I was going to work this morning at 6:45, I was listening to the radio, and the first thing they said was that Phil Donahue died. And I started grinding my teeth because I knew that I would be asked to book all of the great legends of, we call them TV Titans. But I was lucky to get, if you watch the show tonight, you will see Geraldo and Sally Jesse. And by the way, Sally Jesse looks so extraordinary. She has bright red, long hair, and made up face, and she was fabulous. But I am grateful to be here. Peter was a fine gentleman, an extraordinary talent. When I changed my life and got into TV production after 2 or 3 other careers, I worked on a show called Photoplay with Alan Landsberg Productions, and that was in 1986, in the last century. And one of the producers on the show was a woman that became a lifelong friend now, is Suzanne, and that is Peter's daughter. And she's just a brilliant, wonderful, warm-hearted savior of animals and a kind heart. And we've been friends ever since. And so my Peter Marshall story is this. There we are. Aww. And that is me between the wonderful Tom Bergeron and Peter Marshall. And that was Game Show Week on Hollywood Squares. And, we did Hollywood Squares with Tommy between 2002 and 2004. Oh, what a beautiful picture. And that's Henry Winkler and Michael Levitt, who were our executive producers for that part of the run. That was the last 2 years of the King World syndicated run. And so Peter was the center square that week. And all of these extraordinary game show icons sat in the other squares. There's Kathy and JJ and Marty and Winker and Jim and Charles Nelson Riley and Brett. That, like, I couldn't even believe my eyes that they were actually sitting there. And Susan, Carol Merrill, we flew her in, I think, from Australia, where she was living. I have the chills telling you about this. And Rod Roddy, brilliant Rod Roddy. And Rod was actually quite ill when he came to do our week of tapings, but he was wonderful and put on a happy face and was just brilliant. And there's Peter and Laurie with dear Monty and Winker. And, you know, the game show world is a world into itself. They are kind-hearted, hardworking hosts who love what they do and share their joy with audiences. You know, when Hollywood Squares went on in 1966, I was a young woman living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and I never even considered Hollywood as my future. You know, it was Hollywood Squares was a show that I would go upstairs. My grandmother lived in the same building, and I would sit with her and watch Hollywood Squares as an entertainment. So the fact that all those years later, I wound up with the great joy of booking these people. But here's the highlight of Game Show Week with Peter. Peter was the center square. And for one of the days, Peter and Tom Bergeron switched places. And Tommy sat in the center square and Peter hosted the show. It's hard for me to even tell you this, but it came time for Peter to do the introduction where he runs down circle and gets a square and this across and down and horizontal and vertical. He needed no rehearsal. All they did was say, "You're on," and he went through it as if he had been doing it for 50 years without a break. He was his charming, wonderful, handsome, elegant self. The contestants had a brilliant, memorable time. Tommy Bergeron will never forget that. And every once in a while, there's my Tommy.
We tried to find a way to welcome him to the show, but we just couldn't. We were 1 degree of separation. If you ever...
Did you talk to him? Did you talk to him?
No, we never were able to make the link.
Next time.
But we would love to have him on.
Next time, call me because I know people. And he is a generous, warm-hearted soul. I mean, at the moment, I am curious about this new iteration of Hollywood Squares. Coincidentally, I believe that an Entertainment Tonight crew is on the set this evening for Hollywood Squares Primetime, which will come on CBS later this year, maybe January. I'm not sure.
January 2025.
January.
Yes, correct. Drew Barrymore in the center square and Nate Burleson hosting, and they're lovely and talented people. And I hope they can capture the warmth that was Peter and John and Tommy.
Can I ask a question about the original squares that you worked on? There was a writer, it was a Jay Reddick?
Jay Reddick.
Yes.
He was on our show as well.
He was brilliant.
He was brilliant.
Is he alive?
Yeah. Yes.
I think he is. And you know what, John? That, in a way, besides Peter and Tommy and your ability to be the straight man to all of these brilliant guests, the writing of those jokes, are they the jokes or are they the punchlines that, discuss among yourself? But that is key to the brilliance. And they could Jay Reddick could take a guest who wasn't necessarily a comedian, didn't have that skill. Yep. Charo could deliver a joke with the best of them. And by the way, when Henry and Michael took over the show in 2002 after Whoopi's incarnation, which was wonderful, and Whoopi was the center square for that whole time, we changed it up and decided we would not do that. We would mix up the center squares, and we had Simon Cowell, and we had Alec Baldwin a number of times. And you know why Alec was the center square? He told me. He said, I don't have the money to donate to my charities. This is a gift. All of Hollywood should be doing this because you are helping people with your charitable donation. Anyway, so all of those brilliant people who worked with Peter and John and Tom and then Jay Reddick to give them the gold that was their humor of the show is what made it everlasting. So I do hope that the new group, and I don't know the producers, I wish them all well, will understand how to mine the gold and also the kindness of the soul of Hollywood Squares, which personally is the most important thing to me in my work over these many years. I learned from Marty Berman, who was the first major producer that I worked with, who was the producer on Our Magazine, 1987. And I thought of him today because he produced all of Geraldo's shows. When I was lucky enough to be hired for that cast as a brand new person in production, I saw how he put together a team on a show. There were many different styles of people and different kind of hearts and behavior, but we made a family. And I dare say we have all worked on other shows where it's not like that, and it makes a difference. And I hope that these new folks doing Hollywood Squares will make a family, appreciate each other, watch old Peter Marshall, John Davidson, and Tommy Bergeron shows, and please pay attention to those celebrities in the boxes. Because when I look at these beautiful people, and I am so grateful, even when I learned that one of my bookings passed away, and I can post a picture of a group of people that includes John Ritter and Rose Marie and Isabel Sanford and Sherman Helmsley. These are giants. And I hope that this new group of people, I don't know if it's true, I'm not so sure, that they will acknowledge the greatness that is alive in Hollywood. They may not be 23-year-old influencers, dare I say, but they are great talent and they deserve to be honored. And I was honored by working with Peter and Tommy on that day. I will never forget it. Tommy will never forget it. And if you can find the episode, check it out. I love you all.
Thank you. So beautiful. We really appreciate your saying that and sharing that, Claudia. And yes, I will definitely be calling you. We can fill these boxes regularly. You're a real delight to have, and so you're a New Yorker like moi.
196th Street in the Bronx and then 88th Street in Broadway. And all I wanted to do, John Davidson, was be on Broadway.
That's it. Glenn Scarpelli, Staten Island, Randy, Bronx, right? Originally,
Brooklyn for me.
A lot of New York in town here.
The best. It's one of the best places to be from. I can't live there anymore. Yes.
Yeah. I was raised out east on the island, Long Island. Yeah.
My husband was from Inwood in the Five Towns.
Oh wow. Bob, you were waving your hand. New York.
Yeah, Flushing, Queens for me.
Flushing, Queens.
Philadelphia.
Queens College.
Yep. I went to high school right down the street.
Yeah.
Let's go Mets or Yankees or both.
Mets.
New York is New York.
Mets. All the way Mets. Yeah.
That's amazing. Randy West with his $1 million smile and his $5,000 microphone. Randy is always ready to go. Randy,
how about this guy here? Yeah.
When
Now
I
we're
told
talking.
when I told Randy about the show, he said when and where, and Randy has always done that with us, as many of you have, which we appreciate. Randy, welcome, my friend.
Thank you,
and
Jim.
you have some wonderful memories to share of Peter Marshall as well. What I love is these stories that are being shared from the various, scenarios that all of you have had an opportunity to, spend time with Peter on, but especially the stories from several of you who've been on-air personalities and hosts and talent, and seeing a Peter Marshall and what you gravitated to in terms of his affability and his warmth and his quickness and his class. And I know that's something you've always appreciated, Randy, as well.
Well, class is the word for Peter. My God. I just want to bounce off a few things that Claudia said. Claudia gave you one of my very first jobs in town. So I can thank you forever for that at Our Magazine. And
Gary Collins, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was with you and the show the day that Peter and Tommy, did that handoff that crossed each other center stage. And everyone was thinking, I know I was, Peter hosting, you have spent a lot of years. But as you said, hey, object of the game, you get up and down across diagonally, and he'd do that by answering. Bada bing, bada boom, like he'd never missed a moment. It was fascinating. My first experience with Peter was 40 years ago through Art Alisi. Art had been a producer on the original Hollywood Squares. And he introduced me to Merrill Heater, who brought me in to work on a brand new game show idea at the time called Hot Numbers. The Hot Numbers became All-Star Blitz, which is where that picture came from. So I'm in town like an hour and a half, and I'm thrown in a room with Peter Marshall, and he's hosting, and I'm playing in development, a contestant. And, I'm just a piece of meat, just sitting there to go through the motions so that Peter can learn the game. Sorry for the phone ringing here. It's just so popular. And Peter's warmth was incredible. I'm 20 minutes into show business, and he's like, "Hey, you're looking very well today. That's very nice." And keeping me warm, comfortable, relaxed, like it's about me. It's just a run-through session. Lo and behold, this Hot Numbers goes to pilot, and that's the Peter again, even on there as well as backstage. You're looking very well. I think you're going to do very well today. You're a great player. Good, whatever he said, it was just so comforting and put me at ease. And the pilot sold, and there's Art Alisi on the phone again. Would you like to come and do the show, as it's now called, All-Star Blitz? And of course, there we go. And Peter couldn't be more sincere. He was holding my hand during the bonus round. I mean, it was just something you don't always see a host do because of the incredible empathy that Peter had for his players. And it made for a better show. Now, this is a shot from, I can't guess a year, but he came to Newlywed Game. I was the announcer and pronouncer on Newlywed Game with Carney Wilson. And we did a special episode with Peter and Laurie, Wink and Sandy, and Monty and Marilyn. So it was the oldie-wed game, if you will. And these three all-star game show couples came together and competed with Bob Eubanks reprising his role as a host. And that was truly amazing. And there was Peter at that event. Monty had brought a photograph of his and Marilyn's wedding. And, Peter's just making a fuss over, look at you guys, you look so great. There was such empathy is the bottom line, such warmth and class. And two things come to mind. One, we were talking about, Claudia, the setups on Hollywood Squares, as Peter was never trying to take focus. It was the perfect setup for the stars to deliver their zinger. And, if you find the opportunity to see some of Peter and Tommy Noonan working together, that's what Peter did. That's where he learned that skill. Tommy was kind of like a Jerry Lewis character, very large, very big, very close.
Tommy was in A Star is Born with Judy Garland, so lest we remember that.
Thank you. I did not know that. Appreciate it. And Peter needed to just anchor the whole act, which is exactly what he did on Squares. Just bring the focus to the star of the moment without trying to grab any focus at all, which is amazing. Two other things real quickly come to mind. His versatility. He sang, he danced, he did TV commercials, he would have a comedy act, he was on Broadway. I mean, there's no area of show business that he not only didn't do, but excelled at. You know, there are people who are great singers that you wouldn't necessarily put them on a talk show or hosting something. Peter did also host a variety show, 1976, the Peter Marshall Variety Show, 90 minutes weekly, syndicated, taped at Television City. There was nothing he could not do and do well, which is truly amazing, the versatility of somebody like that. And I don't want to take a lot of time except to say that this was what you saw is what you got. And what's amazing to me is the word class comes up over and over again. I would think meeting Peter that my guy must come from money or sophisticated background, his elegance, his charm, his mannerisms. It was also very gracious. He came from anything but money and charm. He was West Virginia, moved to New York without a father, age 10. You know, where was the role modeling for all this elegance and class? The family came to New York. They didn't have a lot of money. Yet it's as if he had endless charm, endless empathy, warmth, and star power. I mean, look at that guy. Look at the face. He owns that stage. He owns every frame that he's in, yet he never brings the focus to himself, but you can't help look at him. There's an energy and a life behind those eyes. And I was always blown over by it. And so appreciative for the opportunity to have worked with him a little bit and to have known him as a friend to a small extent, and not on the level of some others. But he always set a tremendous example, and working with him was a chance to watch a master, the master of the Hollywood Squares, but a master of everything that he did with that elegance. So I'll leave it at that. And so glad that I was able to bring Claudia into the show, and just a joy to be with all of you.
Absolutely, Randy, my friend. Thanks for those beautiful memories of this iconic figure and this great human. Chris Korman, fabulous guy, one of the biggest hearts on the planet. Everybody loves Christopher Korman. He's really one of the sweetest guys, and he's a big friend of us and our show, been very supportive of it. And of course, his lineage is remarkable with the iconic Harvey Korman, who he celebrates gloriously. And you wanted to share some memories of Peter Marshall, yours as well as your dad's connection to Peter as well, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Chris, before you start, look who's here.
How did you get my dad's nose in the picture?
The nose. How do you fit the nose? How do you fit the nose?
This was TV Icons Week, and
wow.
Yes,
That's
it was magic, and Harvey was. I couldn't even breathe when Harvey and Timmy got on that stage. I couldn't even. I had no words for them, but they were brilliant, and God bless his memory.
I was very.
And she's from New York, and she had no words.
Yeah. I was very fortunate. Thank you for sharing that, Claudia, because I'm glad that my dad, at the end of his career, and Tim were still making people laugh. I was very honored to be included in the Randy West incredible book about icons of show business. I had no business being in that book other than being his son. But I wanted to say that I think class is one word to call it. Peter to me was a mensch, true mensch of a human being. Peter was not a vengeful person, but there's one episode of Hollywood Squares where he says about my father to a contestant, not only is Harvey not the secret square, but he's not even working. Now, Peter's not a vengeful person. My dad laughed for 20 seconds straight. You could hear him in the background. And I told Peter that when I saw him, I said, Peter, very few people could sing my father and get away with it, because my dad at that time was very sensitive about the fact that he wasn't doing well. But it didn't come from a malicious place, because Peter didn't have a malicious bone in his body. So I had a laugh at it. My dad had a laugh at it. But the reason why Laurie and Peter met was because in '82, my dad passed on the national tour of La Caja Fall. And that's how Peter and Laurie met. But my dad jokingly said the reason why he passed on La Caja Fall was he didn't want to do another show that involved cross-dressing. He said he had enough of the cross-dressing jokes. But we're at the house, and Laurie is telling me the story. It's like, oh yeah, Peter got this La Caja Fall. I said, yes, I know, because my dad passed on it. because he said, if you really want the best voice in the business, Peter Marshall should be playing the Gene Barry role.
Yes.
And they looked at my father and said, Peter Marshall from Hollywood Squares? And my dad told the producers, unless you guys were living under a rock or raised by wolves, where in the hell where have you been? He has a magnificent voice.
Yes.
So one of the last great treasures of my life, Peter wrote the foreword to my book. And I had to very delicately approach Lori about this because I know Peter, even at that time, was not in great health. And I said, Lori, do you think he would write it for me? Send me the copy of the book or the outline. And within a week, Peter had written it and got it back to me. And I still cry thinking about it. He didn't have to do it, but he did out of the kindness of his heart. And that's one of the reasons why I love Peter, because everything came from his heart. Everything was genuine. He didn't force kindness on you. It was just there. It was ephemeral with Peter. And that's one of the things I loved about him. So,
it was very special. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Really appreciate that. I know it meant a lot to you and to your iconic dad, who we see all the time in re-airs of Blazing Saddles and the Carol Burnett Show and so much more, huh?
And he worked with John Davidson on his Christmas special with Linda Lavin.
That's right, John. You remember that, huh?
I can barely hear what Chris is saying. His microphone isn't that loud, but
so Chris mentioned that.
He did an incredible guest shot on one of my Christmas specials. Yeah,
with Linda Lavin.
With Linda Lavin.
With Linda, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I watched it a long time ago, and I've been trying to get a copy of it ever since.
I have one. Call me.
I know. I got it.
Yeah, John Davidson.
And the calls you're going to get now, John. Everybody's going to sell you aluminum siding.
Oh, God.
Nobody calls me anymore. I'd love some attention here.
I would be honored to talk to you, John.
Great. Okay.
Hey, that's what
but
happens.
I have to say something about John, like Peter, like Randy. You guys traded for 9 celebrities and 2 contestants. Nobody in the history of America could be as effortless of what you did on the Hollywood Squares, John. You were a magnificent host. I really mean that.
I had a lot to learn. I think I did some good shows, but for me, I never get it perfect. You're always trying to work. But I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
I mean it, John. You really. To host one show is one thing. Well, Carol did fine. What Dean Martin did, but to straight for 9 celebrities and 2 contestants and make everybody funny, not everybody can do that. Randy can do it. John, you could do it. But very few people could do that. My dad tried doing his own talk game show, and he quit show business the next day. So,
we all do what we do, and few of us can be as good as Peter Marshall.
That's true.
Well, Randy, wasn't Harvey on Hot Numbers? Wasn't he one of the celebrities?
He's on All-Star Blitz.
I believe he was. Yes, one of the celebs on that pilot.
Yep.
Yes.
And Noopy, thank you again for joining us as well. So kind
my
of
pleasure.
you. We had a wonderful tribute episode to your mom on that centennial, the 100, which is fabulous and so well received. People still watching that episode.
Great.
Share some of the fabulous memories that you have, and of course your mom, the wonderful Rosemary, with Peter Marshall.
Well, I have known Peter for as long as I can remember. He was a family friend forever. I mean, I think my mother and Peter were friends for 65 years because they both played Vegas at the same time, and they go back a very long, long way. Peter was constantly at the house and constantly, my parents loved to have dinners and everything. And Peter was always there. And he's just been a part of my life forever. When I was a segment producer on a few television shows and I got stuck, I could call him and he actually would bail me out and show up. And he would be one of the guests, and he's he's just somebody that's just been a part of my life, and we absolutely adored him. My mother loved him, said that there was nobody that could host like Peter because he knew when to let the star go and when to get the joke and when to get back to the game, because there was always the game. And those were her words exactly. It goes without saying that Peter narrated my mother's documentary. There we are in New York. We were having showings in New York and doing Q&As after, and we had the best time. We really did. And if you watch my mother's documentary and you watch Peter narrate that documentary and you see the closeness of the both of them, when we screened the film for the first time at the house, my mother and Peter sat there just exactly like that picture, and they held hands throughout the entire showing. Mm-hmm. And it was a relationship that was extremely special. There it is in the house. And it was quite something. It was very, very special. And of course, Peter was the one that let the cat out of the bag about my mother's black bow. And she had wanted to keep it a secret, but even in her book, she didn't say anything. And then Peter, in talking about my parents and how close they were, he was the one that said that she wore the black bow in honor of my father. So the cat was out of the bag at that point. But they go back. That picture right there was when my mother and Phil Silvers did Top Banana, and that was in the early 50s right there. So you can see that how far back they actually went. And it was a relationship that was very special. And they would do the Hollywood Squares junkets. Nobody's talked about the Hollywood Square junkets. They were fun. I went on 2 of them, and we went to Canada, and we had a great time there. And then I think my mother and Peter did a chili cook-off, and he was just a part of our lives forever. And
some amazing photos we're showing too that really go back, huh?
Yeah, we were really, really close. And
he was a part of the family. Yeah.
He actually was. And if my mother loved to cook, Italian cooking. And my grandmother also. I mean, my grandmother, would cook up one of those 20-course meals, and then get mad if somebody didn't eat it all.
Yeah.
And so he was always there. I mean, we had Peter there, we had Betty White there, that was during the screening of the documentary that's at Sardi's, and Peter was there, and they got my mother's picture in Sardi's, and you can see us together right there. I mean, that picture shows it right there.
Absolutely.
Just how close we were. And when I heard about Peter, I was just devastated. I was absolutely devastated. It was very hard for me because he was such a part of my life. And so having lost both of my parents and now losing him, it's a sad loss for me. It really is. And Peter and Lori and even in the old days, we had some wonderful, wonderful dinners and fun, laughter, and And you can see when he talks about my mother in the documentary, you can see it. And that's in Canada. Oh my God, that was just
Yeah.
Paul Lynde during that trip was one of the funniest human beings. I don't think we ever stopped laughing. And Harvey Korman was there, by the way.
Mm.
And it would say there he is. And we had the best time. We absolutely did.
Your mother and my father played husband and wife on Suddenly Susan.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And my dad loved your mother so much. I'm sorry I never had the honor of meeting your mother. I wish I had. I would have loved her. My dad loved your mother so much. I just wanted to tell you that.
Well, you know, it's as far as what Claudia was saying about the icons and all of that. It's so disheartening now, because if you talk to somebody that my husband was in the hospital recently, and the nurses would come in and they would say, "Oh, we heard your mother is an actress." Somehow I could never categorize her as an actress. I think Katharine Hepburn's an actress, you know, Meryl Streep is an actress, but and then they would ask me who she was. And I would say, well, do you know the Dick Van Dyke Show? And I'd get nothing. I'd get a blank stare. And so I said, okay, why don't we start? Do you know who Dick Van Dyke is? Let's start there. And they would look, and I'd go, okay, did you ever see Mary Poppins? How about that?
Now, when your mother first heard about the whole show, she even said, "What's a Dick Van Dyke?" Right?
Well, exactly.
In the beginning,
you know, but that was also 1963,
right?
So you know,
you
gotta.
Oh yeah, they don't
that,
know who Lucille Ball is or Jackie Gleason, and don't even ask them about Ernie Kovacs.
Bob Hope Airport is not the Bob Hope Airport anymore. It's like the Burbank Airport now.
And you know what? It's not that they don't know who these people are. They don't care.
That's the sad part.
Yeah, well, yes. I think you're right, Claudia. I really do.
There's no sense of history. So that's my little job at Entertainment Tonight, to go and take a crew out to Dick Van Dyke's house and sit with he and his wife and let him tell his stories. So maybe a 28-year-old girl or 32-year-old boy may listen to the stories and learn something.
Well, you know, something that would be wonderful. You know,
did it.
I find out it's kind of hard, you know, when you know, my mother worked in the industry for, you know, 70 years.
More.
And
By the way, your mother wrote some of the most beautiful thank you notes and letters I ever received. Every time I booked your
my mother was old school. She really was.
I have them. I still have them saved because she wrote these beautiful letters.
She always, she always wrote thank you notes. I never saw her refuse an autograph, ever.
No, she was
ever.
That's rare too. That's very rare.
But the amazing thing, I was amazed that she drove a Rolls Royce.
She did.
I couldn't believe. I used to work for Harris in Reno, Tahoe.
Here's the thing. It was used. We bought it used, but
okay. But a Rolls Royce, it goes against what we think of as Rosemary, to me.
True. Well, the funny thing was, she was actually friends with a friend who had who used to own the Pussycat Theaters way back when. Wow. If anybody remembers those.
Yeah.
And he was driving a Rolls, and so she, you know, he would razz her about her car because I think she had like a Firebird or something. And so she wound up getting this, but she loved that car so much, and it became such a thing when her health got bad, and we got done doing the documentary. I said to her one day, I said, "What do you want to do about the Rolls?" And she just thought about it, because exactly like Peter, till the day that they left us, sharp as a tack. My mother's memory was unbelievable. She could talk about playing the Copacabana. She was doing an interview with somebody, and I was sitting there, and they said, well, what was it like to work in the Copacabana? And she said, well, you know, they had yellow walls that it this, and then they had this cash register that had a bullet hole in it. And I looked like, where the heck did that come from?
She remembered everything.
That's amazing.
And she absolutely had a memory. And we, in doing the documentary, I don't want to get too long on this, but we had cans of film, because what she would do is she would do like a guest shot on Carson, and she'd say to the guys, gee, can I get a copy of that? And 9 times out of 10, they would give it to her. So we found film that was just unbelievable. But the roles, we wound up giving it to Jason, who actually produced and directed the documentary, because we literally made that documentary on a wing and a prayer. And during the filming of the documentary, she was awarded the Shirley Temple Award. Well, who do we get to present it? Well, who do you think? We got Peter. And Peter was there, and Peter presented her the award. And it was great. It just you know, it's really hard to explain, but when you've lived and been close with somebody for so long, and you basically, I mean, I basically grew up with him. Yeah. And you know, it's
like a personal. While the world is mourning the loss of this great talent and somebody who felt like a friend in their homes through the various shows and performances, it's a deep personal familial loss for you.
Noopy,
it's a very.
May I tell a story, Noopy, about your mother and Peter and the Pussycat Theater? Since you brought
yes,
all of that
sure.
up?
Go ahead.
Yes, Geoffrey,
I'm afraid to ask, but go ahead.
Well, Alan Carr, the entrepreneur and producer, wanted to put on, you know, what kind of party could I put on that would be different from anything else that's been done? So he invited the entire cast that week of the Hollywood Squares to the Pussycat Theater, to a catered party.
Oh, God.
At the theater. And then after you ate, everyone was shown into the theater and watched the kinds of films that were shown at the Pussycat Theater.
Oh, my God.
And Peter was the host, one on each arm, Rosemarie and Ethel Merman, because Ethel had been on the show that week.
I believe that.
Because Rosie and Ethel were like sisters.
Yeah, they were.
So Peter and Rosie and Ethel ate, and there's a whole bunch of celebrities there. And they go into the theater because the food was in the lobby, and they were watching a Swedish adult film. And this is in the late 1970s. Now, in those days, that anyone talked in these films was, ooh, new, they're talking. This particular film, they talked both in Swedish and in English. Oh, and they're watching, and you know, Merman was very, very, you know, she loved this kind of stuff. And Rosie was not shy about things. And someone would speak in English and someone would speak in Swedish, and back and forth. And there was this lady on the film who was making a man very happy. And halfway through making him happy, she switched places and languages and made a woman very happy. And Peter poked Merman and Rosie in the ribs, went, ooh, look, she's bilingual. Because one thing we have not mentioned is Peter's incredible wit. He was a funny man. I don't mean he could read comedic lines. Of course he could. But just if you had dinner with him, I'd had hundreds of dinners with Peter because we were belonging to Yarmy's Army, which was a group of comedians and comedy writers and comedy directors. And no matter who was there, with Buddy Hackett or Don Knotts or any Jonathan Winters. That was at a birthday party for me. A long time ago. I still have that shirt though. That was at a birthday party that Dawn Wells threw for me. In fact, Randy was at that party.
Yes, great time. Thank you.
And but just his ability to, like, the other comedians would vie for attention and Peter would just wait. And then when everybody else they thought squozen all the comedy out of a thought, Peter would come up with something completely original and top everybody. I'd also like, if you don't mind, because I know I adore Noopy. I just think she's wonderful. And Noopy and Glenn, I'm getting older. How are you both getting younger? I don't understand it.
Oh, okay.
Because Noopy, you look beautiful.
We're going to get you better glasses for Christmas.
Yeah, right.
Right, Noop?
I have the Doris Day gauze on my camera here.
So
I
Jim,
know these
if I may,
people
I
a very long time.
We a story about Peter getting the job to host the first Emmys.
Oh wow, yeah.
Please.
So as a young producer on the East Coast, doing the Mike Douglas Show, and I think I was 20 or 21. I was one of the first members of the Television Academy out in New York. And we had this idea that daytime kept getting put down by prime time, and we should have Emmys that would be equivalent to the same Emmys they do in Los Angeles. So we created the daytime Emmys, and Barbara Walters was the host with Gary Moore. And at the last minute, Gary Moore couldn't do it for some reason, and somebody suggested we meet Peter Marshall. Peter came in, and you'll find it online. If you go on YouTube, you'll find the first ever Emmys, 1974. Peter and Barbara come up in a handsome cab and get out and get into the skating rink. We were all seated in the skating rink in the summer, Rockefeller Center. And we were the front table because we were nominated. And the categories were very strange. Hollywood Squares was nominated against talk shows. Talk shows were nominated against other shows. It was just a weird grouping of crazy categories. And Peter won the Emmy. We lost. I was working at the time for Roger Ailes and Woody Frazier, who both were not happy at all about losing, and they wanted to get up and leave. And I said, we're at the front table right by the podium. We can't leave. It'll look ridiculous if we get up and leave. So I got to talk to Peter, and I asked him if he would come to Philadelphia with us and do the Mike Douglas Show the next day and talk about the Emmys and the fact that he beat us and that he had done such a great job. And it turned out the co-host on the Mike Douglas Show was Sly Stone of Sly and the Family Stone. And the name was very appropriate because Sly was higher than a kite out of his mind. And Peter came out on the show. And you can find that on YouTube as well. Go on YouTube and look up Peter Marshall with Sly.
Well, actually, Ernie sent us a clip of that for our show, which he was very gracious to do. And let's take a look at that now. You have Peter Marshall, Sly Stone, and Mike Douglas.
It's always a thrill to present the best in any category. Today we have with us best daytime Hollywood Emmy Award winner. Yes. On this panel, everything so fine is congratulations. Thank you very much. I've had some time to so many different categories this year. I was up, I run up against Diana, and we do the same type show. Are you proposing any changes for next year? I was, when they said, let's have a daytime Emmy Awards, I thought that's a great idea, and I went to the Academy, thought, daytime, Yes. I know it's operating bill. God is. Categories. I. And it's enough for the awards, which is people have to say goodbye. Wait, Rip. How are you? Get to these. Just got back by your needs. It was yeah, it was but it was and look at this guy. And he's there, and he has 9 seats all along, right? 9 seats to himself. I don't know. It's trying to, excuse the expression, to I think they're Valentine, and she's there with her boyfriend, Johnny Hinker. They get twins. And so he's going to have a cocktail party. And it was going to be 3 people. Round up the class. And now we're at this party, and he's mad for Karen Valentine. And he keeps saying, I remember this. It's about as that. And say things like her. Rachel was me, you're my girlfriend. Johnny Simulates, you don't understand Rich, baby. Just kept going on, sap, and we go sappity. I can't imagine. I got a Emmy.
Oh my God.
Well, it was definitely a different time. But the amazing thing about that was how comfortable Peter was. You watch Peter on camera, and that could have become a very, very uncomfortable situation, which it was many times with Sly Stone as the co-host of that show. And Peter just was so charming. He just made it all work. And a few years after that, I got hired at NBC, and they wanted to create a show in daytime. And they were looking, I had been hired to bring Regis Philbin from AM Los Angeles to his first national show. And we created the Regis Philbin Talk Show. And as part of that, they created this idea that we should have a game show involved with it, which became a spinoff, which Peter Marshall and Merle Heater got hired to produce. And Merle was kind enough to hire me as the line producer for the show. Merle was the executive producer along with a gentleman named Earl Greenberg. And Peter was just so terrific on that show. And there's another episode of that you can find on YouTube for a Father's Day episode. But we could not find the right co-host to go with Peter. And we tried out 7 or 8 different women, one of which was Mary Hart. Mary had been the co-host on the Regis Philbin show with me. And Mary got this other little job called Entertainment Tonight, which I told her not to take, by the way. I said, it was going to last 3 weeks, Mary. Don't go over there. Don't leave NBC. You have a great home here at NBC. So we kept bringing people in and to try with Peter, and the chemistry wasn't right. And Peter said, you know, the right person for this job is Leslie Uggams. And all the NBC executives, Brandon Tartikoff, Grant Tinker, Earl Greenberg, Rick Ludwin, oh, Leslie Uggams, that's the worst idea we've ever heard in our lives. Peter said, no, give me a chance to bring Leslie Uggams on the show. And let me do a pilot with Leslie Uggams. And they said, we're going to let you do it, Peter, but it's a complete waste of time. So Peter brings in Leslie Uggams, who not only was wonderful, charming, and he had such great chemistry with her, but he taught her the ropes in terms of how to do a game show and a talk show at the same time. And then the Emmys came up again, and we were all going to be nominated. And we got nominated, and Peter got nominated against Leslie. And it was kind of weird. And Peter said, I'm going to drop out because Leslie deserves to win an Emmy. And he did. And Leslie won that Emmy the first year. She won the Emmy the second year. I got a call from the NAACP, and they said, are you the producer of Fantasy? And I said, yes. And they said, well, we want to give the show an award. And I said, for what? And they said, you put the first Black woman in a hosting role on daytime television.
Revolutionary, Ernie. Revolutionary.
And I give all the credit for that to Peter. Peter had absolutely no ego about it. He was just, and with Glenn, who was very young. I think, Glenn, you were 14 or 15 the first time you did the show, right?
Yeah, sure was.
Glenn also, and we used to bring the Facts of Life girls on, Nancy McKeon and Mindy, and Peter was just so terrific with all of them. One more story. About 10, 11 years ago, a dear friend of mine who was one of the first producers of Entertainment Tonight, a gentleman named Bruce Cook, who was down here in California in Newport Beach, was going through kidney dialysis. And I said to him, Bruce, how's it going? And he said, well, I have about 3 years to live. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you can only have dialysis for a certain amount of time. Now, I had spent so much time with Peter over those 50 years, I knew that Peter had lived 50 years with one kidney. Peter had a kidney removed in his late 40s, I believe. And I told Peter this story, and he said, we got to get him a kidney. I said, well, how are we going to get him a kidney? He said, I don't know. You think about it, put something together, and I'll help. So Bruce became the head of public relations for a very fancy place called the Balboa Bay Club. Balboa Bay Club was started by Humphrey Bogart and John Wayne, and is a fancy kind of country club, beach club, yacht club down here in Newport Beach. And the owner of the club said she would throw a cocktail party, and we weren't going to throw a cocktail party and ask for a kidney, but we would certainly throw a cocktail party and bring a lot of people there to talk about donating organs. Peter drove all the way down with Lori, about a 2.5-hour drive, and spoke that night. And that next day, a friend of mine, a woman I had known for a bunch of years, was about, Bruce is 6'6" and about 300 pounds. Claudia, you know Bruce, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got a kidney from our friend Heidi Miller, who's 5 feet tall, 100 pounds dripping wet, and a former gymnast. And he's alive today and doing great.
Wow.
That was because of Peter's generosity.
Mm-hmm.
One more story. About
Gang,
20 years
could I?
ago.
Could I just say something? This is John. I could sit and listen to you guys all night long. However, we're doing this live show, and in less than 15 minutes, President Biden is giving his farewell speech, and I'm so excited about watching that. I got to go watch the president give the most important speech of his life, probably. And thank you all for so much fun. And
absolutely, John, you're the best.
And thanks, Jim, for getting this all together.
Absolutely. We'll see you in September, my friend.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you. You take care.
Bye,
So
John.
The last story I'll tell is about a PBS special 20 years ago. We had convinced PBS to do a Peter Marshall documentary. And we got it all lined up and ready to go. And at the last minute, the chairman of PBS that had bought the show said, no, I'm going to be fired next week. I can't do it. So in the can, we still have interviews, Glenn and John, from 20 years ago of Peter sitting in his dressing room at Resorts International with Merv Griffin, doing these incredible stories about going to New York, Dick Haymes buying him his first overcoat. You know, Joanne Drew got hired as a model, and Peter's father was a pharmacist in West Virginia, and his father passed away, and Peter was 14. And the three of them moved into a one-bedroom apartment in New York, where Peter, started to work because he had to.
Yeah.
And he told me this great story about the floor was over a jazz club, and he got a drill and drilled a hole in the floor
so he
could put his ear to the floor and listen to the music overnight. So what an amazing man, what an amazing career, and what a wonderful human. That picture was taken actually at that Bruce Cook event when Bruce got his kidney. And, it's pretty amazing, just an amazing individual. And we talked on the phone often. Most recent, that's a dinner at Peter's house with the Van Patten family. There's Jimmy and Nels Van Patten, Patty Van Patten, and the late Jeff Ballard.
And Jeff Ballard.
Yeah. Patty Van Patten is in her 90s now, by the way. And
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's Peter and Laurie hosting the dinner that evening. We just had so many wonderful times together over 50 years.
Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing. And the story about him doing Hollywood Squares without cue cards, 1 year ago, we did a Hollywood Media Professional salute to 75 years of game shows and a tribute to Art Alisi, who had been Peter's friend for 60 years. And I went to Peter's house with Bob and Steve, and we recorded Peter on camera for a piece. Glenn, you were there.
Yes.
And Peter said, I said to Peter, do you want cue cards? Do you want a prompter? He said, nope. He did 4 or 5 of the most touching, wonderful minutes. I have the tape as a tribute to his friend Arthur Alisi. He was just an amazing human being. They don't make him like him, and I will miss him for the rest of my life.
That's so beautiful, Ernie. I just wanted to show something quick, Geoffrey, first that lays into what Ernie just talked about when they were talking about Leslie Uggams. Glenn was kind enough to send this beautiful clip of him with Peter. And it was, I believe, Glenn, Peter wishing Leslie Uggams a happy birthday.
Oh, yeah. I sent it to Ernie, too, this week, actually.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
We have that clip, and I would love to share that. That is a really beautiful moment with Glenn and Peter. And how long ago was that, Glenn?
That I believe was May of 2023. Leslie was turning 80, and she was having a big party in New York that neither of us could get to. So instead, we sent this birthday message.
Here it is, everybody. Peter Marshall and Glenn Scarpelli. Hollywood royalty times 2.
Hey, Leslie, this is your fantasy team, the great Peter Marshall. And of course, I'm Glenn Scarpelli.
Fantasy. Oh, what a great show it was. I loved working with you, Leslie. And now, well, he was just a kid, and he was our co-host. We've known each other 40 years. That's 40 years ago. And you're turning 80. My goodness gracious. When I was 80, I was very pretty. But of course, you're still very pretty. You know, sweetheart, I loved working with you. I really did. We had so much fun together for the couple of years. And Ernie Di Massa, our wonderful producer. And we had such great people around us. and this rotten kid co-hosting was so much fun, and we've been pals ever since. And I don't see you that often, but I think of you, and I love you, and I wish you a happy 80th. Incidentally, 80 is very young.
Yes, I mean, so Leslie, that's got to make you feel good. Peter is turning 98 this year.
I'll be 98.
You'll be 98. So, Leslie, you're a kid.
Yeah.
Right? So that's got to make you feel good. And we just love you so much.
You know, like Cheetah Rivera, there are two women in my life that are the most talented, wonderful women. Well, Julie Harris, I got to put her in there.
Maybe three.
Maybe three. But you and Cheetah are the most talented women I think I've ever worked with. You can do anything, and you're just so real. Yeah, there's nothing show business about you. You're a real person, as Cheetah is. And incidentally, I don't know if you read her book, but it's terrific.
So happy 80th birthday, Leslie. We love you so much. Hi, Graham. Hi, kids.
Hey, Graham.
Hey, we love you guys.
Right. They must have been married 84 years.
Yeah, I think they're married 84 years. Graham's almost your age.
That's right.
Ah, kidding.
Happy
we love
birthday.
you guys. Happy birthday.
Okay, got it.
John doing some producing and directing, as always.
That's wonderful.
The extraordinaire that he is. That was beautiful. That's not really been publicly shown, and Glenn was kind enough to share that with us, all of us and our viewers. Very sweet of you, Glenn. That was, beautiful to watch and a beautiful moment, huh?
It was a beautiful moment. We were visiting that day, and we decided, we were going to send that message. John, if you heard his voice behind the cell phone, because that's what we just shot that on, a cell phone. But those moments with Peter were so wonderful, and just reminiscing. And I got to share with you too, the last time we visited, which was only a couple of months ago, I got Leslie on the phone, and we had them talk, and it was so lovely. And when I heard of Peter's passing, I actually called Leslie first and gave her the news so she didn't have to read it online. And she just thanked me so much and thanked us for getting her on the phone and having that opportunity to have some closure and to say, I love you one last time.
That's so beautiful.
That's
it
great.
really is.
You see how kind Glenn is?
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons everybody in show business loves him, including me.
Yeah, he's
We've been friends a long time.
We actually have another little clip we got to show here, and this, I believe, this was sent by Ernie and Glenn, and this is something really cool. I believe this is fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
Roll them.
Roll tape.
This is Fantasy, the show where dreams really do come true. And here to make them happen, our fantasy team, Peter Marshall. Hello. Leslie Uggam. Hi. And Ray Scarpelli.
Back again. Howdy. Good to see you all. Great audience. What a nice audience. Well, now, this is our Father's Day show, so they said I could go cash. You're very cash.
I'm as cash as it gets. I'm collegiate.
You certainly are.
But you look very nice. Thank you.
We welcome everybody to our show and to our Father's Day special as we honor a man who, despite his own disabilities, wins awards for service to others.
4-time dad, 2-time stepdad, and 3.5-time grandpa. I love Peter Marshall. Steps into the spotlight with a song for dads everywhere.
You betcha.
That's great. We'll see the results of our makeover efforts as Tom Rowley from Chips presents not only the 3 volunteers, but the latest in men's fashions.
And we'll announce the 3rd weekly winner of our Have a Fantasy game.
And you'll come with us as Glenn and I salute a father at the request of his 12-year-old son. And this being the eve of Father's Day weekend, what better way to start it all off than with a young boy's fantasy for his father? It began with a letter from a 12-year-old. I believe he lives in Sacramento, California. He mentioned several fantasies, but we'll have him tell all about it himself. Seth Boyle, he's right down here. Come on with it.
Okay.
Seth, would you step over to the aisle?
Come on over here, Seth.
Nice to see you, son. May I shake your hand?
Well, welcome, Seth. And this must be now. Where's your mom and dad? Right. That must be your mom and dad, right? Now you wrote to us about them, right? Well, welcome to both of you. Now you wrote a pretty terrific letter, and the best paragraph of all is where you said, "I know my whole family would share in this fantasy because of the love and support we showed towards one another." Is that really true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a couple of fantasies in mind, didn't you?
Yeah.
One for your brother, and I believe 2 for your father. Tell us about them.
My brother's graduating from high school June 4th, and I wanted some money for his graduation.
Well, that's past,
that's
but
neat.
that's all right, uh-huh.
And my dad has real bad backaches, and he
You didn't cause them, did you?
no.
Maybe the headaches.
I wanted to clarify that.
And he went to our neighbors, and they had an inversion board, and they said he could come on, he could try one out, and he got on it, and it helped his back.
Oh, that lean inversion.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it really helped your daddy then.
Yeah.
And what else? You had 2.
And my dad spent 2.5 years refinishing a concert grand piano for our church, and a lady in our church gave my dad a baby grand piano for him to refinish.
Oh.
So you would need some lacquer?
Some money for lacquer.
How much is lacquer?
It's $80 for a gallon.
Get out of here.
That's a lot for
Serious?
lacquer, my God.
Well, that Mr. Steinway must be doing very well. And Mr. Baldwin, all those guys.
I'll tell you, Seth, we thought it might be fun for you to make those fantasies come true all by yourself. Do you know about the fantasy fountain?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, I'll tell you something. By your parents' permission, of course, we're going to send you backstage to get ready. And then we're going to send you in the fantasy fountain and see how much money you can grab. How's that sound to you?
Fine.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, we're going to do that in just
Well,
a minute.
Mr. and Mrs. Boy, you have an extraordinary son here, and I'm sure that he will grab a bundle. So, if you'll go right backstage and get dressed,
I'll
we'll
take
join
Seth
Seth.
back, okay?
Yes, you go with him, all right? In the meantime, let's go to find out what Leslie Uggams is up to. Leslie?
I'm here with Bill Rail, who we flew in today to meet the son that he's never met. And what better day than Father's Day weekend to have such a reunion? Bill, first of all, where are you from?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
And what do you do?
I'm a letter carrier for the United States Postal Service.
Now, I understand that you have a rather large family now. Tell us about them.
Yes, we have 11 children at home. Our oldest son is 18 years old, and our youngest son is a year and a half.
And you live on a farm, is it?
11 acres, yes.
That's terrific. Now, on top of all that responsibility, you just graduated from college. Congratulations. Isn't that terrific? What degree did you earn?
I earned a bachelor's degree of business administration from St. Francis College in Fort Wayne.
I think
You can
that's
see how
sensational
good
that you went
Leslie
back to
was.
school and got your degree. That's
Thank you very
sensational.
much.
Now, it sounds like you really got your life together, but when you were a little younger, that necessarily wasn't the case, was it?
No, it wasn't.
You want to tell us a little bit about how the separation happened between you and your son?
A little teaser there.
That's the full episode. It's on. I put it on YouTube.
Thanks for sharing that, Ernie. And Glenn, you also sent that along as well.
I only got it off of Ernie's page, so
I tell you,
it was all Ernie.
It's all Ernie.
Fast forward about 35 minutes in when you look at it, and what we did was we had Peter sing a medley of 3 songs on Father's Day to his grandchildren and his children. It was just lovely.
So
And let me also give you the payoff of the kid's fantasy. He got $1,000 in his pockets.
1,500.
1,500.
And that was what year?
1983. 83.
A lot of money then. A lot of money. Absolutely.
In the bag for the kid.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Peter actually picked up about $200 or $300 off the floor and handed it to him.
Wow.
He would have taken it out of his own pocket.
Yeah,
he
he
would.
often did that because one of the executive producers used to call him on it, and Peter would just pay the difference.
That's incredible. Bob Boden, so calmly soaking it all in. You also, another icon in our industry who's responsible for so much television and hours and hours and hours of great entertainment and more. Tell us about your memories of and respect for the incredible Peter Marshall.
Well, first of all, I have to say, how many times have we all been on Zoom calls that look like this, where we've said, "Oh, are we on Hollywood Squares?"
Nah.
Right.
I mean, that show is such a cultural landmark in this country, and the fact that Peter gave birth to it, although he didn't do the pilot, Anyone?
Burt Parks.
Burt Parks did pilot, yeah.
Mhm.
But Peter brought that show to life, added his special talent of knowing when to speak and knowing when to let the stars be the stars. And he never took over. He never dominated the show. And my greatest memory of Peter actually was just 2 years ago. I know that Glenn and John, you're doing a full-on documentary, but I did get to do an hour and a half with him for the game show archives, the Strong Museum. I put the link into the chat, Jim. I don't know if you can share that with the audience, but it was a great interview. And at the time, Peter had told Laurie that he just did not want to do any more interviews, that he was done. And with the help of Shelley Herman, dear Shelley Herman, she convinced Laurie to convince Peter to do just one more. Obviously, he did another one with you guys, but he said at the time that was going to be his last interview. And he had just turned 96, sharp as a tack. And what I really enjoyed hearing about were his adventures in game shows. There we are. Beyond Hollywood Squares, because it wasn't just that. And although he said that he didn't want to be thought of just as a game show host, he thought of himself as a singer, performer, Broadway star. But in the game show world, he started as a page boy, they called it. That was the term back then, at NBC in New York. And Gene Rayburn was also a page boy. So they go back to the beginning of time. He appeared on Jeopardy! There was a celebrity game show host edition of Jeopardy! With Art Fleming, with him, Art James, and Bill Cullen. And Bill Cullen won. He talked about that in our interview. He was a celebrity contestant on a music game show called Do Re Mi. This was in the Scandal era of the late 50s. And at the time, he said that he won more money on that show than anyone else because he had such a wide knowledge of music. Wow. He spoke about his lifelong friendship with Alex Trebek. He talked about how when Art Fleming was replaced on Jeopardy, how bitter and angry he was about that. And he compared it to his reaction to hearing that he was going to be replaced on Hollywood Squares by John Davidson. And he said, I don't care. That's great. I had a wonderful run. And he never ever took over the stage, personally or professionally. He was always just the humble, modest guy. He knew how lucky he was. When I asked him what was the experience you had on Hollywood Squares, he said it was the easiest job I ever had. He said it's 5 hours a week, and he got to play Vegas every week. He got to do all the other things he wanted to do, sing and dance. And he just looked at Hollywood Squares as a job. And even though it brought him more fame than anything else he had done, he never craved fame. He never wanted to be recognized or noticed. He was happy just to live his life, do the work that he was meant to do, and go home and be with his family. And it just in a world of Hollywood that is just filled with egos and people who are jockeying for position and for notoriety. Here's a guy who was from day one on and considered himself so lucky to be on Hollywood Squares with people he grew up with. He went to PS 165 that Wally Cox went to. He knew him since grade school. He knew Rosemarie forever. These were some of the memories that he shared. And when we asked him, what other game shows do you wish you could have hosted? He listed a couple, but then we said, well, what about Jeopardy? He says, oh, no, I could never have hosted Jeopardy because I had no education. And he didn't finish high school. He went out to be a performer. And that was his approach to his work, his approach to his career. And he just never saw himself as a star. You could probably convince him to think he was a celebrity, but never a star. And the last question that we ask in all our interviews, it's an homage to Barbara Walters, is how do you want to be remembered? And his answer was, I want to be remembered as a nice guy and a good singer. So he was that. And game shows, were just a job to him. A great job, but not the reason for him living. And, he had such admiration for the real professional game show hosts who he didn't see himself in their club, even though he certainly earned a place in that club. So it was an amazing day. I'll never forget it. The interview is posted on the museum website. Here's the website.
There it is.
For posting it. We love you.
If you're out there, take a picture, you'll see it. But anyway, I was just honored and pleased, and he has made a difference for so many people over the years, not just contestants and celebrities, but viewers. And that's his legacy. Nice guy and good singer.
Is any one of you having a new roof put on your house or something? Sounds like something.
I have to go feed my horse.
Oh, there's a very angry dog in the house.
Something going on.
Oh, it's Ernie's house.
I don't feel bad because it's convincing on our end too. On
I think the movers.
They've come to take somebody's stuff away.
They're repossessing my car.
Somebody
It's the
has
Real
a very,
Housewives of Newport Beach down the block from Ernie.
Somebody's stealing the center square from my house.
somebody has an angry partner
the
or
noise
spouse.
the noise is not here, so I don't know where it's coming.
Somebody has a very angry partner or spouse because they didn't eat the dinner and now they have to reheat it after.
It might be
show.
my horse. It wants to eat.
Geoffrey, you wanted to chime in there before we showed those clips
about Peter's kindness, and forgive me if I should have let you pick on me the other way around. Your show, not mine. I first met Peter when I was researching my book on Ella Fitzgerald, and at that point, I think I was 6 or 7 years clean and sober, and that came up in conversation. And he said, "I have an ex-son-in-law who needs your help." And he immediately put me on the phone with Mike Miner, who was living in New York back then, trying to resuscitate his career. It was an immediate, oh, help, let's help. We were doing a benefit at the Motion Picture Home. And we invited a girl from the 60s who was a very well-known singer who had fallen on harder times and wanted to give her a break to resuscitate her career. And she was brought out and interviewed, and then she started to sing the song and froze. And Peter yelled, "Get me a microphone," and went out on stage, put his arms around her, and sang the song to her in her key. And the audience would never know the tumult that had been going on backstage because of all of this, because that word class, but also his kindness. And then one more quick one, and I'll shut up completely. Most of you who know me know that I battle COPD. It's why you don't see me singing as often as I used to. And I only told a couple of people about it when I first got the diagnosis, and this was 20 years ago. And I get a call that evening. "Hey, Pally, I heard you're sick. What do you need? And I'll make it happen." Where does one find a friend like that? I didn't ask him for anything. I didn't call him. And I didn't take up his offer because I didn't want to take advantage of him. But just his first response how can I help? Glenn is like that. Randy is like that. Noopy is wonderful. The rest of you, Chris is a sweetheart.
Thank you.
But to know someone who has 90 million children and 190 million grandchildren and nieces and nephews, and has the energy left over to care about everybody in his life. That's why I love Peter so much. He was there, real, there, kind, loving. I just saw him. I saw him, I think, the week after Glenn and John did. And all he was concerned with what was going to happen to Laurie and what was going to happen to the kids. And he wished he'd helped me more when he had a chance. And it's like, Peter. And I, at that moment, said, look, you did this for me. You gave me heart and love at a moment in my life where I really needed it. That's how I remember you. Nothing more than that is needed. And he was grateful for that. But
well, I think we can wrap everything that you're saying, Geoffrey, because there's a line that Laurie gives in the documentary when she's speaking of her life with Peter, and she says, "I wish everybody could have a Peter Marshall."
And let's once again talk about Laurie for just 30 seconds. We have, all of us, known men my age who marry younger women or sometimes younger men, and watch that partner pull them away from their friends and pull them away from their family and try to get at the money as fast as possible. Laurie has spent her life with Peter making sure that all the connections with everybody he loves are safe and sound, and she has people over constantly. She treats his children and grandchildren, the Koch family, with love and what's his real last name, and with love and respect. She was everything I would love to meet a man who is as good as Laurie is. That's the best compliment I can give her.
I think, yes.
Here.
Laurie is a
tell you what's really funny about Laurie was, to go with what Geoffrey was saying, she was truly, I call her a Bid Shanita, which is a Jewish goddess, because everything she did was about Peter. And I told her I saw Peter on an episode of Burke's Law, and he was the worst person on that show. He was backstabbing and blackmailing everybody on the show. And Laurie said, "That's not Peter. Who cast Peter as a vengeful, terrible, awful human being?" I said, "I don't know." So I sent it to her, and she wrote me back and said, "This is the funniest thing I've ever seen," because that's not who Peter was.
Yeah.
Jim, we have to get going because we changed.
I think we all do
this, but I want to just say today was their 35th wedding anniversary.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
So we just wish them both to be in each other's hearts and to feel what it feels like today for all of us. So we love them, but thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, Glenn and John, you're the best, and really appreciate all the time. And so happy because I knew you had the close relationship, and I wanted to assemble a cast of characters that had really some substantive things to say. And you guys are truly amazing and all fabulous friends. And I've always admired Peter, just because of his grace and his wit. As a television, radio broadcaster personality myself, and studying at school and all the way up, I've always admired those who people gravitated to because they were real and they were warm and they were authentic. And the cast we have assembled here and those who were with us earlier meet that as well. And really beautiful having you here, Glenn and John. And before you step out, did you want to say anything in memory as well of Phil Donahue?
I've always been a fan of Phil Donahue's. Our paths never crossed, but these icons of television influenced our generation in such a profound way. And they were on at a time when people had more patience to just listen and take time, and you could host a show. Like now, everything's like sound bites and
no more patience. You're right.
You're right. I will say,
patience.
I will say this about Phil Donahue. Mike Douglas was on the air for 22 years, was #1 show for 19 of those. And toward the end, the Phil Donahue Show was the new show in town and was going to replace the Mike Douglas Show. The writing was on the wall. We had Oprah kind of in the wings for later on, but Phil Donahue was really the one that broke it through. And Phil Donahue was gracious enough, and so was Mike, to come and co-host a week of the Mike Douglas Show. And we actually did something called the Talk Show Olympics. And Phil and Mike put on tracksuits and did all kinds of Olympic things together. And Phil was just charming, wonderful, sweet. Came from Ohio like Mike did. And Mike started his show in Cleveland. And was just a wonderful human being. And
absolutely.
It was so great to see him with Marlo Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
It was such a wonderful couple. What a charming, brilliant, wonderful man he was.
And so wonderful having all of you. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Your stomachs are probably growling, but I do want to say, I do want to say that Bob and Ernie and Claudia, who've never been on the show before, and John, I'd love to have you guys on individually because you've made such incredible marks on the industry and have brought us hours of epic entertainment and joy and laughter and got us to think and quiz. I'd love to have you on the show.
Well, you realize by calling the three of us out, you've just got tic-tac-toe.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And on that note, we're going to say goodbye, you guys.
Right. High five, Glenn.
High five. High five.
Thanks, Glenn, and thanks, John.
Thank
you again. Take care, guys. You guys are.
I just wanted to say the only time I ever rode in a Rolls Royce was with Jay Reddick, who drove a Rolls Royce, our writer on Hollywood Squares.
Wow. I miss Jay. I love Jay Reddick so much. What a great man he was.
Amazing.
Did you want to say anything, Claudia, about Phil Donahue as well while we're here?
This morning, Sally Jesse said he invented the daytime talk show. We asked her and Geraldo about how having the audience as part of the show, you know, how he would stand in the audience and say, is the caller there? Yeah. And he said that you didn't need celebrities, you just need a strong topic. And she just said he invented the daytime talk show and realized that the women at home who were watching deserved to be noticed and provided with reasonable television during the day. And it shouldn't just be a primetime thing because the women that were at home were doing hard work, washing and cleaning and taking care of the children when they came home from school and making them a snack and all of that. So she said that she basically lifted her arms up and she said he invented the daytime talk show. And I think he did. Personally, as far as Phil is concerned and his show, and my daughters posted this today, that the all-time favorite episode that Phil did was to have the cast of A Chorus Line on his show. A very unique booking. I will pat myself on the back and say that I did that at the Arsenio Hall Show when A Chorus Line came through to the Schubert in Century City. Remember the Schubert in Century City? Yeah. And I said to Arsenio, you know, I could die happy if I can book A Chorus Line to do the finale on our stage. And he said, you really think so? I said, I really think so, because I think our young audiences need to see theater. And he said, well, then do it. And so Phil did it on his show, and the cast sang their spectacular songs. And I would look for it if I were you, because it gave Phil great joy and gave a lot of people great joy, especially the cast members. Many of them are still alive today and still working.
John McKechnie.
Absolutely. Bob, did you want to share a memory of Phil Donahue?
You know, I did not know him personally. I had met him several times through the Emmys, because I've been involved with the daytime Emmys for many years. And I actually went to a taping of his show once in New York. And what I was most impressed by was that after the show, he waited outside the studio and shook hands with every single audience member and said, "Thank you for coming to my show." And you just don't see anything resembling that level of genuine courtesy, certainly not in this town. It was just so heartwarming that that he cared enough to thank every single. Now, he didn't give us a car. If he'd given us a car,
and you get it,
you know,
that was Oprah, right?
You get a handshake. You get a handshake. I would have preferred a car, but anyway, I just got such a warm feeling from him, and he was the ultimate professional. You know, when he got on that stage, he was buttoned down. He was prepared. There was nothing that could be thrown at him that he couldn't handle. And that's why he lasted for 29 years. I mean, that's, you know, longer than Oprah.
And Oprah said if it wasn't for Phil Donahue, there would be no Oprah show.
Right, exactly. He paved the way. And, you know,
because he was an original.
Yeah.
Phil was Carson at daytime.
He brought to the camera what Peter did, which is good looks, but great intelligence, a great heart. He radiated love.
And not a Hollywood guy.
Yeah,
No.
which by the way, Jim does those things as well, and so did most of your guests today. They're all
Appreciate that,
intelligent.
Geoffrey.
You know, I got to work with Bob a couple of months ago. I was thrilled just to be in the same room with him. The only person I don't know personally is Claudia, but I love her so much. I hope she reaches out to me.
Thank you. We've actually met through Harlan at the museum.
Well, then I'm a schmuck. I am so sorry, dear.
Okay. There are only about 200 other people there.
There was a line that I shared that I've shared on this series a lot, but I've shared it for years. Some of you may have heard it. When I was about 7 years old, my father said to me, of course, this witty Irish gentleman from New York, my dad, he said, of course, I'm the fifth James, so Jimmy, always remember when somebody says something kind or nice to you, always make sure that you thank them for those kind words. Then ask them to please put those words in writing and address it management. And it's
Well,
so
Jim,
true.
you're your own management, but I meant every word I said. It's why you're so good at this.
Amazing.
You made all these 11, 12 people today feel comfortable and wanted and brought out the best in all of us. And that takes talent, intelligence, and warmth.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. You know what would surprise people too? I do all of the camera angles, the changes, the production, the graphics, the music. I'm the TD, technical director, as I'm doing the show.
Brilliant.
Then I'm even more impressed.
It's kind of interesting, right? Surprises everybody.
Where's the after party, Jim?
We're gonna go wherever Ruta Lee is. What was the name of the
Okay,
restaurant?
No, she went to a
Where's
great
Ruta?
restaurant. It's a great restaurant.
Yeah, we'll go see Ruta. I'll buy her a drink for coming on the show. You guys are what a great group of people here. Chris, yes.
Jim, you are the Peter Marshall of podcast.
Appreciate that. Well, a number of folks have said over the years that since we started this during the pandemic, we're bringing back the lost art of conversation. There was a couple of guests that said that. And one of the great guests, I think, that shared something like that, because I said the show has a lot of light, love, and levity. And that was in the pandemic days. And one time I said it too fast, and I said the show has a lot of light levity. When I said levity, it just took off because the audience said, "Oh my God, what was that word you just said?" I said, "I don't know. I combined light, love, levity. I combined the love and the levity together into levity." They said, "Guess what?" I said, "Yes." And this is the audience talking. They said, "You're Mr. Levity. This is Levity Hall. We're now your Levity Squad. The guests are part of the Levity family." I'm like, I levity that. And that was just something that happened. The key to all this is, I work full time in TV and radio during the day. is putting this together and doing this on top of all that. And we've done, oh my God, we're about 4.5 years of this, 1,200 episodes.
Wow.
In 4.5 years. We had Loretta Swit on, and she said, Jim, we did MASH for 11 years on CBS, and we did like 231. But, you know, you have great conversations with people like you and our guests that were here earlier. We're sharing fabulous things that our viewers are enjoying. We're having a good time. I don't really call these interviews. I call these conversations, free-flowing. And, you know, I get to use some of my broadcast TV background and all that, but also have a good, honest time with all of you and some laughs too. So it's a pleasure having you guys here, and you are all welcome back. We will keep the porch light on for all of you and our previous guests, and I really hope you've enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you.
Very much. Very much.
I needed
inviting
this.
me. I had a wonderful time.
I needed to be with other people who loved Peter. It's like I from my own soul, I needed this. Thank you.
Me too.
I appreciate that. I'm glad that you know, you guys, you know, we pulled this together very, very quickly, and we started with, you know, 4, and then and there was a couple more. Wink Martindale wanted to be here, and a couple of others, but their schedules didn't click with it. But they send all of their wonderful, warm greetings and memories of Peter as well. Come see us again. Let's all stay in touch, friends. If we were all in the same zip code right now, and dinner would be on me, but maybe at some point that will happen. And
I'd love that.
Spread the word about the Jim Masters Show. It does take a village, and as we all know. And you're all a delight. And Bob, you know, an icon in this industry, and Geoffrey, a superstar. Chris, sweet guy and a real master of everything he does. Randy, turn on a switch, he knows what to do. And a real sweetheart of a guy. Claudia, extraordinary, talented producer, and so much more, and a real delight to chat with.
Wonderful.
And I'm Jim Masters. You guys are the best. Any final words you'd like to say about Peter or about our conversation before we take off?
Just that I think
we're
all
in
better
our
off.
heart forever. Yes.
I think we're
Can
all
we take
better
a
off.
break now and then start the second half of the show?
Yes. Do you know, real quick, the
Go
longest
watch the convention that I taped now.
the longest guest was during the early part of the pandemic, and it wasn't, you know, I if people have to go, we can do a half-hour show, whatever. People want to stay longer, we don't put a time on it. It's however long the guest is here. But the longest guest we had, and he still holds the record, was, I say, the first summer that we started this, Scott Schwartz, the actor from A Christmas Story and Toy with Jackie Gleason and Richard Pryor. He just had so much to open about his life and so much to share. He was in his backyard. I think it was smoking cigarette after cigarette. I think he drank probably 30 Snapples, and it went from, you know, sunshine to outside in the patio with a candle. It was an epic conversation. We started, I think,
We were very lonely then, Jim. We were very lonely. I was in my house for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
We started the show at 7 Eastern. We wrapped it at midnight. It was like a 6-hour, and I sat here. I didn't get up because he had so much to share. It was just, and the viewers were interacting. We had guests, viewers overseas who watched it when it first started, went to bed, woke up, and it was still on.
Still on.
Gang, thank you so very much. And Claudia, I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you.
It's nice meeting you, Claudia. Nice to see you, Geoffrey.
I will, Claudia. You are wonderful, and I appreciate your being here, spending all this time.
Thanks, Randy, for inviting me. I appreciate it, Randy.
The connections.
Love you dearly.
Absolutely.
Love you, Randy. Thank you.
You be well, Claudia. Come see us again, and let's stay in touch, okay?
Sure thing.
Take care.
Thanks for playing, Jim. Bye-bye.
Greetings from back east. And Randy, thank you for being with us as well, my friend. Always a trooper and a hero and a dear friend, and we love having you here as well.
Value you thinking of me. Very much appreciated.
The pleasure is all mine. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for being with us. Bob, a pleasure having you here. Pleasure meeting you. And Thanks for all the years of amazing entertainment and all that you've done. And come see us again. I'd like to have you on the show individually as a guest as well. And I hope you enjoyed your time as well.
Love to do it. Thanks for playing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was about to ask, where are our Lee press-on nails for being here?
I was going to say, they're coming to you right now. Thank you, Bob. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
And Chris, I love you, kiddo.
Love you too, Jeffrey. Take care.
Jeffrey, thank you for joining us as well. And it was a real pleasure.
Anytime you need me, Jim, just ask.
Absolutely. And congratulations on everything with you. Come see us again, my sparkly friend. We'll see you soon. And my friend, Chris Korman. What can I say?
Everything. I'll send you more guests, I promise.
You are amazing, Chris. And I really appreciate all your time. You're a sweetheart of a guy. And again, I hope you enjoyed your time with all of us as well.
I hope Lori sees this, and I hope the LaToc family sees this, because this could be cathartic for them. I think they probably could use this. I hope they could use this kind of celebration of Peter, because what they're going through, I know when I lost my father, you mourn somebody you love, but you had to share them with the public, because to them, they were a public figure. To you, they are a loved one. And that's a fine line to have to balance.
Yes, right. Exactly. You have to mourn with the fans, but then also personally and privately, because it was a relative. Absolutely. Right. You're the best, my friend. And thank you.
Take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Say hi to your family for me. Okay.
I will. Thank you. All right.
Good times in Vegas. That's where he's coming from. What a great epic conversation and show we put together for you very, very quickly as we celebrated in style with these epic guests, the incomparable Peter Marshall. And we also threw in a little bit of a brief chat about another television icon who just passed away, Phil Donahue, the iconic television talk show host. Gina Rowlands also passed. I saw that in the viewer comments. God bless Gina's family and the soul of Gina, another epic actress and performer. And what an iconic list of guests here, huh? John Davidson, Ruta Lee, Marc Summers, Glenn Scarpelli, Claudia Cagan, supervising producer of Entertainment Tonight, and so much more. And Georgiana, of course, Noopy, the daughter of Rosemary, and Bob Boden, and John Ricci Jr., and Chris Korman, son of Harvey Korman, Geoffrey Mark, and Ernie Di Massa, legendary epic television producer. He's worked with Regis and Oprah and Inside Edition, and as we mentioned, the Mike Douglas Show, and so much more. I wanted to put something together special. You guys know we've done specials on Bob Barker and Lisa Marie Presley, and we did a wonderful tribute special to Cindy Williams, Penny Marshall's daughter. Tracy Reiner was with us for that. We did a wonderful special celebrating the life of Tina Turner as well, and so many others. And if you want to see past episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live series, they're all archived on our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. While you're there, we would love it if you like, comment, and subscribe. Give this episode a like, share the episode on your social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Leave a comment, interact with us. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel as well under this episode. And if you want to see some of your favorite stars from television and Broadway, film, music, stage, sports, comedy, culinary arts, and everything else, we bring it all on here at JMS, the Jim Masters Show. Definitely check it out and spread the word about our show. If this was your first time here, we welcome you to the Lovity family, to the Jim Masters Show Live family. Always wonderful when we welcome new folks. We thank you for being with us, and don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It means the world to us. And of course, I wanted to do something special because Peter Marshall is such an icon. Film, television, stage, an incredible actor, host, Hollywood Squares, and much, much more. And just somebody who obviously you can hear from the conversations that we had with our illustrious guest of Hollywood royalty and more. Some amazing words of love and hope and inspiration, and just some beautiful words about this iconic figure who we lost at the age of 98. And to his family watching, if they are, Lori and the family, we send our love as well from me and mine, Jim Masters and family, the Masters family, and all of us here at the Jim Masters Show Live. We send you our love. Thank you for sharing Peter with all of us all these years on stage and film and so much more. Iconic, his theatrical credits are extraordinary too. Just Google it, you'll see. But we thank you to the Marshall family for sharing him with us all these years. And really great smile, great wit, and a great guy. And this wonderful shot I love. There's a lot of game show royalty there as well. Tom Kennedy, Peter Marshall, Bob Barker is there as well. You can see everybody there. Monty Hall. Bob Barker's in the driver's seat. Monty Hall's next to him. And then you have Tom Kennedy, another epic game show host, and Peter Marshall. Good stuff, right? And we thank our guests for sending in some beautiful video and some wonderful photos, personal photos, and some things that you've never seen before that they wanted to share with us exclusively here at JMS. We thank everybody and any guests that wanted to come on the show, but their schedules didn't match. We hope to have you back as well. This was an epic, monumental, behind the scenes effort to put this together, because this was put together in just about a day or so to assemble all of these amazing guests. And some folks were gracious enough to actually flip their schedules around to join us. Ruta Lee, we just had a conference to have her come on the show only about 2 hours, literally, and then 2 hours before the show. And then she moved her dinner arrangement around to join us. And all these amazing friends of our show. And I hope, we have a big JMS party and invite all of these great guests who've been with us all these years. And many of our guests like to come back. Of course, you've seen Randy West here. Geoffrey Mark has been here. Our great friend Chris Korman has been here several times. John Davidson. We're going to see him in September, actually, because he is wrapping up his venue and he's pretty much retiring like Tony Orlando did. John is, pitch in the tent, and he's going to be wrapping up Club Sandwich, which is this beautiful venue he has in New Hampshire that does all kinds of shows and entertainment. And we went up there about 2 years ago. We're going to go up to see him on his final weekend to celebrate John Davidson. And he's been with us several times. And Glenn Scarpelli has been with us several times. You can see all these past episodes archived on our YouTube channel. John Ricci Jr., first time he's been with us. Bob Boden and Ernie Di Massa, they're epic in this industry. Claudia Cagan, supervising producer for Entertainment Tonight, her first time here. And we appreciate her being with us here at the Jim Masters Show as well. And it was just open and free-flowing and just really such an epic conversation. Of course, Noopy, Georgiana Rodriguez, Noopy, her nickname, she was wonderful too. With the memories she shared about Peter Marshall. And you could see that she's devastated by the loss of Peter, because he was like a family member. And his relationship with her mother, Rosemary, the famous and iconic Rosemary, it's the beautiful shots we got here, and we thank her for sending these, some real personal shots. Peter Marshall and Rosemary, it's like losing a family member. And so really amazing. And Marc Summers too, stopping by. He was with us when he was doing his the Off-Broadway show, the Off-Broadway show in New York, The Life in Slimes, going over his career. And of course, he's hosted Double Dare and so much more. And there's a big following from Mark and everybody. So big circle, right, of Peter Marshall admirers, including myself, being a television, radio, and content creator here on the internet as well. Somebody who's a host and journalist and all of that. And so we lost two icons in just a few days, Phil Donahue and Peter Marshall. And of course, to Phil's family, to Marlo and everybody, we send our love to the Donahue family, the Thomas family as well. It was really great to squeeze in because we just got word, everybody got word about Phil today. So we wanted to squeeze in what we could. One more time, a wonderful, wonderful JMS special presentation here for all of you celebrating Peter Marshall. He left his mark. We loved him. He'll never be forgotten. He'll always be with us. And we brought in some of the most incredible people here on our show in the industry, some real industry veterans on screen and off, who also share their love of Peter Marshall and of real love for what they do too. These are all epic people. So we thank every single one of them. And you'll see them again. They'll stop by again. Peter Marshall. All right. Thank you as well for all of the amazing comments. Our comment section in the chat room has been on fire throughout the entire broadcast. Again, this is archived on our YouTube channel. So if you just tuned in now, because we know that the convention was on as well, we're going to go watch the replay of it. We thought about actually doing the show earlier, but we had everybody all lined up and then realized, oh, the convention's on. So the rest of our shows this week are going to be on an hour earlier so we can get them in and then everybody can watch the convention. That I'm saying to the live audience, if you're watching this 6 months from now, it'll be a whole other world. So if you ever need a quick pick me up, come see us at the Jim Masters Show. We're always here for you and always here to, make you smile and do what we can to entertain you as well. We thank you for being with us, everybody. Really a delight to have all of you here. I'm going to take a look at a couple more quick comments because there were so many of them here. So we want to acknowledge some beautiful words that have been said. Yes, Cullen Fields, who's in New York, says, condolences to Laurie. Absolutely, I agree. And thank you for tuning in, Cullen Fields. And, his Cullen Fields handle is tied to game show host. He's a super game show aficionado and lover of game shows and everything game show. Whenever I talk to him, he always tells me, get my pets spayed or neutered. The Bob Barker line, of course. Maria says, unbelievable show. Can't say thank you enough. Just by saying that was thank you enough. Maureen in Arizona says, Jim, this was just such a heartwarming tribute to Peter. I have a feeling that he's up there smiling and is very humbled by all of the love shown to him in this episode. Thank you for this. Well, the pleasure is all mine, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It was my pleasure to put together with all of these wonderful guests. And Mitzi McCall passed away as well. That's right. Absolutely. And blessings to her family. Epic show from Kathleen. Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks, Jim, for a heartfelt tribute. The pleasure is all mine and all of our guests who joined us as well. A lot of new folks. Shyman 99. Thank you, Jim, and everyone for this special tribute. Our pleasure. And Kathleen, thank you. So generous. Thanks, Jim, for putting this amazing tribute together. It was so special hearing all those memories. Thanks so much for your awesome guests, to your awesome guests. Rest in peace, Peter. And thank you for the Irish Green, too. I appreciate that. Very kind of you. Kathleen watching our show in New York City. And Mega Man says, Jim, keep up the awesome work. Hopefully you finally get to meet Tom Bergeron. I think we now have that connection. I would love to. We've tried on several occasions, but we're 1 degree of separation. There's several people actually that are in this industry that I would love to have on the show. I was this close to chatting, not on this show, but on a PBS special with Dick Van Dyke. I was asked to interview him for a PBS special. It was actually the airing of Buttons, the movie, which my dear friend Tim Janis produced. And it was really a beautiful, heartwarming story. Dick Van Dyke is in it with Angela Lansbury and Charles Shaughnessy and so many other incredible people. And but Dick got called away to Disneyland in California at that time because it was his 90th birthday, and the special had already been produced. So we were this close. But Larry Matthews from the Dick Van Dyke Show has been here. Let's see, a couple more. Once again, Rest in Paradise. I like that, Rest in Paradise. Peter Marshall. Beautiful. Marie says, thank you all so very much. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful episode. The pleasure is all mine. Jane in Sweden, thank you as well. All the guests. It's 4:30 a.m. where she is in Sweden, and she's still watching us. That is real lovely. Kathleen, thank you for your kind comments as well. I really appreciate that. And Cullen Fields really enjoyed this. Sherry Larson in Kansas. Thank you, Jim, for an absolutely fabulous show. What a beautiful tribute. Thank you. We pulled together what we could. There's a lot more. We wanted to add more video and pictures and everything else, but I tried to put together as much as we could, jam it in there. And our guests were able to stay as long as they want. We don't put a time limit on it. When they need to go, we wrap. They were all very generous because obviously they had a lot to say and they wanted to be here. And I tell you, each guest that I contacted, they hopped on board immediately. Even Ruta Lee, again, at the last minute, she says, I want to be a part of that. And it's so beautiful. And Randy West and everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. What a wonderful tribute and amazing stories, memories. Loved this. Thank you very much as well. All right, we're going to wrap up here. Going to have a snack and come see us again. This is the Jim Masters Show. Love having you here. Don't forget to take care of one another and love one another. And don't forget to take care of yourself. And we hope you enjoyed this very, very special JMS tribute to the one and only Peter Marshall. If you want to see it again, it's archived on the YouTube channel in full at Jim Masters TV, our YouTube channel. All right, gang, you be well. We'll see you again. Just looking at more comments coming in here. That's incredible. We really appreciate that. We'll be back. A lot of great guests coming up. John Provost, who starred as Timmy in Lassie, is coming up soon, and so many more surprises. So come check us out here on the Jim Masters Show. We love you all. Be well. And cheers.